when I did my dissertation, I was interested in the line of research that is it hasn't exactly died out, but it was much more prominent in the 60s and 70s and 80s when a psychiatrist by the name of Abram Hoffer was attempting to treat schizophrenia and depression with high doses of various vitamins, and particularly vitamin B3 niacin. And the results are mixed. He was, I mean, generally, Abram Hoffer would conclude that it was a viable treatment that everyone should know about. And so I was, a little skeptical and curious and wanted to see for myself. So I didn't conduct an experiment where I administered it, but I conducted a multiple case study where I found people who met a very specific criteria, which were a schizophrenia diagnosis, and then that they had been prescribed Risperdal, a commonly prescribed drug for schizophrenia, that they had then introduced this, what is known as an orthomolecular treatment, so high doses of niacin, and then that it was successful. I wanted to talk to people who found that this treatment really helped, and it helped them, number one, get off of the drug and withdraw from the drug, and it helped keep their schizophrenic symptoms under control. And in short, the people that I did case studies on reported that, and of course, case study interviewed their family, their friends, their doctors. They reported that it actually really helped, that they felt that the vitamin support really made the withdrawal symptoms much less intense. So, I think what I can conclude from that is that certainly more research is warranted on the way that nutritional support can help reduce the intensity of withdrawal symptoms. I think this is something for people to keep in mind.
Please allow me to comment on this.
Please.
And please don't cut it out.
Okay.
Of the interview. I have written the chapter in the textbook for medical students in Copenhagen, in the whole of Denmark, about alternative medicine. And orthomolecular medicine is a kind of alternative medicine. So I have studied this, and I must warn people about it. It is not based on good science, and vitamins come up all the time. Now people also claim that vitamins are good for COVID-19. And vitamins always pop up. And whenever you study vitamins in randomized trials, almost always you get disappointed. So you are referring to some cases, and if you pick some cases, you can show that almost anything seems to be effective. So I would warn you about this. There is nothing in the way of nutrition, including vitamins, that has ever been shown to be helpful in mental health. You need to deal with people's mental health problems in a psychological way.
Right.
Not by drugs, not by vitamins, not by eating more or less fat or carbohydrates or whatever. This has never been shown to be of any value. So I would like to warn people about this.
I appreciate that. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm disappointing you there.
No, honestly, it doesn't feel disappointing. I have no identity invested into this. I have no attachment to it, honestly. Although I will say, I would be surprised if nutrition had nothing to do with emotional stability and mental health. But I understand what you're saying, but I guess my impression, based on everything I've read in the literature about this, is that perhaps the value could be that someone who is sufficiently nourished, who really isn't depleted or deprived or deficient in any kind of major nutrients, perhaps they're just a little bit more emotionally stable, and that is a supportive element in dealing with their issues. What would you say?
Well, we can raise all sorts of hypotheses, but there are so many nutritionists in this world who have done so much research, and I have yet not seen anything that is useful in terms of mental health problems. We know very few things, like if you eat too much sugar, it rewards your reward system in the brain in a similar way as amphetamine does. So you might become sugar craving. But I mean, of course, you should not drown yourself in sugar because that's not healthy, and then you will get fat. So you shouldn't do that anyway. You should have a varied diet and eat what you like. That's what I do. I don't worry about what I eat. I eat a very varied diet and not too much sugar. That's it. I'm sorry, Nick, but
again, it's not disappointing. It's not disappointing to me. I don't.
People should focus on this wonderful tune by McFerrin. Don't worry, be happy. Live your life. It's the only one you will ever get. And without crutches in terms of alcohol, psychiatric drugs, tobacco, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I certainly think that when we use the term biopsychosocial organisms, the psychosocial factors, I definitely have concluded that those are the factors that relate to emotional and mental well-being.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Now that you mention this term, biopsychosocial factors, then we tend to disregard the social factors enormously.
Mm.
When people become psychotic, you can see that they have very often been severely traumatized many years earlier. For example, sexually abused as a child or abused in other ways increases the risk of subsequent psychosis. And if you start looking at these things, why do so many people get a depression diagnosis? Well, that's very easy, because they live depressing lives. They have a wrong husband or a wrong, what is the opposite, wife, or they have a hostile boss or a wrong job, or a lot of things may be wrong. And then you get sad and depressed. I mean, a pill cannot help you there.
Mm. I think this is such an important point. And I also think it's important for people to frame depression and anxiety, for example, as feedback about your life. And
yes,
I find that, for example, when you look at someone who drinks too much alcohol, what tends to happen is that they numb all the feelings that they don't want to be feeling. But the problem is that those feelings are meant to be guiding. They're like alarms that indicate that something's not quite right in the way I'm living or in my circumstances, situations, or relationships. And if we were to frame it that way, then we would respond much differently. I mean, we would have a different relationship to the depression or anxiety, because we would think of it again like as a guide, as a signal, and then we would make different changes.
Yeah.
So
I agree so much with what you just said, and I wrote about it in one of my books, not a psychiatry book, but another one. Imagine you have a broken leg, and then you have a lot of people with broken legs, and then you randomize them to aspirin or placebo, and then you conclude, oh, aspirin works on broken legs because people have less pain.
Great analogy.
But it won't heal your leg.
Yeah.
And therefore I have a chapter in another book that I call emotional pain, and then I have a chapter called physical pain. So if you treat emotional pain with psychiatric drugs, with these rating scales that psychiatrists use, then you can say, oh, well, yeah, your emotional pain is slightly less. So your drug may be working, but do you become mentally healthy? No, that's like the broken leg.